Now, the next thing that I'm thankful for is Penguin Random House and their decision to stand by their decision to publish the next Jordan Peterson book. So Jordan Peterson has had a very rough life over the past year to a few months. He's gone through a medication addiction. He was subscribed an antidepressant to help him deal with his depression surrounding his wife's cancer. And he was given a very addictive drug, and well, he got hooked on it. Unfortunately, that happens. While he was off trying to get himself off of these medications, he got COVID. There were a lot of people out there trying to herald his downfall, but as luck would have it, they just happen to be wrong, because he's got another book, 12 More Rules for Life, and it sounds like that's going to come out in March of 2021. Now, I know that Jordan Peterson is considered to be a divisive figure, and I'm pretty sure there are a lot of people that are going to listen to this podcast who are going to fall into either camp. The pro Jordan Peterson camp or the anti Jordan Peterson camp, and I think that the fringes of each one are pretty much the same kind of lunatic. But for those of you who are neither kind of lunatic, I did find his book to be very well worth reading. And as a matter of fact, you can actually see his maps of meaning lectures and his personality lectures given to the University of Toronto and to Harvard University on YouTube, and I think that they're worth checking out. And I know that it sounds like he's just going back to the well again, and you can say whatever you want about that. But the one thing that it's just not worth is it's just not worth crying over. And somehow that was what a whole bunch of these employees, well, I guess I wouldn't say a whole bunch of employees. It turns out that it was maybe about 4 employees at Penguin Random House who were so upset about this that the company had to have what they called a town hall meeting with their staff and listen to a bunch of people basically complain about it. And so it sounded like what was like the discussions that were had at this town hall were actually pretty constructive. I mean, they listened to these people, they heard them out, and then they turned around and they said, we're still going to publish the book, and guess what? Hey, you don't have to buy it. You don't have to read it. Nobody who doesn't want to buy the book has to buy the book. Nobody who doesn't want to read the book has to read the book. We're just going to publish it, put it out there, and everybody can just do as they will. But apparently that just was not enough for some of these staff, who apparently they had to run complaining to Vice.com, of all places. And so they were kind of rehashing what their complaints were. And in all honesty, I gotta tell you that if I were the publisher at Penguin Random House, the very next word of complaint that I would hear from these 4 people would probably just be, hey, you know what? There's the door. Don't let it hit you on the way out. Get out of here. Or like the Busta Rhymes song, get out, get out, get out of here. I mean, the whole thing really, it strikes me as a rehash of what a similar bunch of staff at Spotify tried to do with Joe Rogan, where they went out and they cornered the company management, and they talked about what a big problem they have with some of Joe Rogan's podcasts and some of the people that he talks to, actually probably including Jordan Peterson. And it was actually the exact same thing. It was a bunch of junior level staffers, so basically a bunch of schlubs in the fucking mailroom, trying to tell the company's executive what their editorial policy should be. And I'm sorry, but hey, guess what? You gotta put in a few years before you get to do that kind of thing. And when you actually get to do that kind of thing, it is a tremendous responsibility. And so it isn't the kind of thing that you get to do with an eye on, whether or not somebody makes content for people that you don't like, which was one of the complaints at Penguin Random House. Or whether or not you think that the person who's doing it is a bad person, which is another complaint at Penguin Random House. As a matter of fact, I believe that one of them told Vice that they had told their editors that they were bothered by, quote-unquote, the fact that Jordan Peterson is a white supremacist icon. Which, by the way, is not a fact. Like, that is not a fact. That's just you calling names. That's not a fact. Now, I don't run Penguin Random House, so I don't really get to tell them what to do. I've never run a company that size. I mean, I run Dragonfire Ideas. Employees, 1. So I don't have that same scale of reference for running something the size of Penguin Random House. But I still have to tell you that if I were, I wouldn't be looking for a bunch of schlubs to come out of the mailroom trying to tell me what the company's editorial policy should be. It's like, hey, go back to the basement. And if you don't like it, clean your desk out and get out, get out, get out of here. You're in the mailroom, buddy. You don't get to impose your censorious worldview on the rest of the planet. You don't. And of course, not to mention, is there any complaint in the world smaller than? Is there any complaint in the world smaller than? Oh, he writes books that people I don't like. People I don't like his books. So we shouldn't publish them. Is there any complaint in the world that is smaller than that? And the fact that really all of these complaints are just coming from people who are honestly so deluded as to think that trying to take Dr. Jordan Peterson's shine means that they're shining themselves. That's a pretty confused worldview. Now, nobody has to like the guy. And I'm not even going to try to make everybody like Jordan Peterson, because honestly, I'm just not that emotionally invested in whether or not people like Jordan Peterson. But the one thing that the executives of Penguin and Random House, they did come out and they say, hey, you know what? We believe in our company presenting a wide variety, a nice diverse variety of opinions. And as it so happens, diversity of opinion is just good business for a book publisher. If Penguin Random House was in the business of only publishing books for these 4 junior-level staffers and their friends, I don't think that they would stay in business. They definitely wouldn't be publishing any bestsellers. So I think on the one hand, maybe you do have to tip your hat to these publishers at least a little bit for at least making the effort, to be open with their staff, to listen to them, to hear them so that, they feel like they're being taken seriously. I've heard it said, a lot of people are saying that that's the way that you get people to buy into these things. But on the other hand, I also think that the fact that these people ran crying to Vice.com is also a pretty good indicator that they haven't bought into this idea of diversity of opinion. And I think if they can't get on board with that, I think that it is better that they go. See ya. And especially because, the one thing that you see with these quote-unquote anti-Jordan Peterson people is that they just, they don't stop. For better or worse, whatever you might think of it, they are persistent. If they can't get the book unpublished or not published or whatever you want to call it, then they'll go out and they'll mess with the book tour. Or if he goes and he tries to give a lecture somewhere or tries to give a speech somewhere, they'll go out and they'll try to get that canceled. They are not going to quit. They're not going to give it up. I think they're going to be a supreme pain in the ass. And so I think that it would be wiser to nip it in the bud. But there is a reason that I don't at this time run Penguin Random House. And perhaps I'm wrong. Perhaps, perhaps this is the reason why I don't and why I shouldn't. But I guess we'll see what comes out of that whole situation.